All right, hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Let's Cry Together, where you're not required to cry, but if you want to, you definitely don't have to do it alone. This is Miss K with another episode, and I'm just super excited for our guest today. We have Leroy. I know him because he is somebody who moves around in the community and just, does a lot of good things. He's a poet. He runs a after school program that I was able to come and see, and it was just all really, really good. So I will turn it over to him to let him introduce himself, let you guys know where you guys can find him, and all the things.
What's going on? My name is Leroy D. Bean. Again, poet, writer, producer, community organizer, certified recovery peer supporter, manager of a year-round program. Actually, we do after school and summer. So, yeah, just a lot of work in the human experience, I would say. That's been my focus for these last 10 years of just trying to curate a career that feels fitting for my passion and my spirit. So that's me.
Okay. And then where can they find you social media wise?
You can find me at Leroy D Bean. That's LeroyD and then BEAN.
Okay. And
that's on everything. Yep.
Okay.
Everything.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So the first thing we do is we do a question of the episode. So this is just an opportunity for all of us to kind of come together, talk, share our opinions, share our thoughts about different things. And most of our conversation today will be about the human experience, art, all of those things. So the first question is, do you think artists have a moral responsibility to change the spaces that they enter into?
Yes, I believe that. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that right now I've been exploring a space of art being very connected to spirituality. And I think at the core, art still comes from a very human experience, expression and healing and recognition. It usually comes from like being forced to, if not willingly, facing like all of the aspects of being human that are hard to actually like deal with and move through. The things a lot of people try to find escapism in order to, navigate. And so with that type of understanding of how deeply our experiences inform our art, I think it's important to recognize how that art also ends up mirroring the humans that are watching and paying attention and also finding salvation in. And they don't necessarily always handle it responsibly, especially when it comes to, how they kind of interact with that artist. But that's even more reason that I believe we have a moral responsibility to, really make sure that we're being responsible with the people by telling important stories, by being intentional about how we question reality, and all the things in between. So.
Yeah, that was good. And I like how you said that the art mirrors the people who are like looking at it. Because a lot of times when you think about art, you think more about the person who created it and not the people who are taking it in.
Yeah.
And I think, it mirrors the creator, but it also mirrors the person who's looking at it. So I think that was good. And I have to agree. I do think that we do have a moral responsibility to do whatever's important behind our art to change the spaces that we're in. Because I think, what we put out there does affect other people, so you just have to be careful of like what you're doing and make sure that you're showing up authentically, so then what is being consumed by other people is being consumed in a real true way and not just I'm just creating. Like, no, is this really you? Is this really part of your experience and parts of who you are? So
Yeah,
I agree.
What I'll add to that too is that I don't want people to think that it's this like you gotta go super hard and deal with everything. One step at a time. You know what I mean? It's not like you gotta change the entire world systems and that.
Sure.
But just at least being honest about what we can and can't handle, and allowing that to be in the work as well. I think it's also easy for the ones who do believe that to start to become like too much of the critic, and then we're also still not seeing the human experience because realizing how much people have to deal with and handle, like when it comes to change, when it comes to growth, healing, it has to be a patient process. It has to have grace involved as well, or
For
else you
sure.
just end up being like, uh, I don't know what to call it. But there's definitely a balance, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is? Do you think that there's a balance, or do you think that there's like a way that we can go too far, upholding this standard of like this moral responsibility for other artists or for the audience watching?
I don't know if I would say too far,
Hmm.
but I will say sometimes I do think that maybe people can take on too much responsibility. So I think I'm kind of like 50-50. I do think that we do have a moral responsibility to
Hmm.
to others, but I also think we have a responsibility to ourselves to
Hmm.
continue to allow for the art to do what it needs to do for us. And then once it does for us, we allow for it to do for other people. So I think we shouldn't let either of the two take over. I guess, like, I
For
think,
sure.
it needs to do for me, but it also needs to do for you. Like you said, it's allowing for me to grow and all of those things. But if I'm so focused on everyone else and then I'm not getting my growth, it's like, okay, well, now it's not doing what it was originally intended to do
Yeah.
anyways. Because I think for me, art is that's what I found art to be from the beginning. It was something that I was using as an expression, as
Hmm.
all the things. So, and then it started to benefit other people.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
Uh, I really resonate with a lot of what you said. When I really sit and think about it, I think that's what I would break it down to for real. I think at one point for myself, this idea of having this moral responsibility felt like it started to become my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was definitely taking it too far. I mean, both with, you know, the context of the poetry, and like I felt like I was pointing my finger too much at the audience. It was a lot of you. It was a lot of addressing
Mm-hmm.
society's behaviors and not including myself in
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And so I had to start definitely turning it the other way. But that also was like the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and I started being too hyper focused on
Mm-hmm.
change and addressing, whatever it is that I'm putting out there as an
Right.
artist. And then the internet being a rising thing at this time as well was just kind of a hyper reflection of myself compared to what's happening in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
am I doing enough to address it,
Yeah.
and like comparing myself to ancestors and really the icons who have done this work at 20 years old,
Yeah.
21 years old, in their teens. And it just became too much of an overload. But I believe at its core, at its essence, having that moral responsibility doesn't. I don't think it can imply there's a way to do too much. But I think
Yeah.
if we're not careful with ourselves, and like you said, that balance between the love that we need for ourselves and the loves that we have for our people,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to keep that in check in order to handle it responsibly. But
Yeah. I agree. So a good balance
hmm
is necessary. Okay.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so if you guys don't remember the question, it was, do you think artists have a moral responsibility to change the spaces that they enter into? Feel free to answer this in the comments, in, wherever, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you see it. Just make sure that you answer. But our first real question is, do you think artistic expression is creating new things from nothing, or a translation of human experience into tangible form? Or both.
Definitely both. Definitely both. I'm a sci-fi lover,
Okay.
surrealism lover in my own way, Afrofuturist, digester. I don't know what to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I love thinking about these ideas of how artistry is this technology that is actually contributing to or manipulating the universe that is already in existence.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely believe that part of it is creating something from nothing,
Okay.
and embodying the true definition of creative or creator. And I think that is literally what we have witnessed throughout history, and how we have the things now that we didn't have then. You
Right.
know what I mean? And things that you sit and look at and like, who thought of that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what made you come up to create
Yeah.
this for the world? You know, and that is a really magical experience. But I also definitely believe it is translating, transcribing um, these human experiences, these things that are abstract to the world,
Yeah.
and making them something a little more tangible for people to
Mm-hmm.
digest who don't necessarily have that vision or connection to those abstract things. I think about that with literary devices a lot. Like, you know, irony isn't just this thing that we made up to add to stories. Like, we really saw
Right.
irony happen in real
Yeah.
life, and
Yeah.
like, okay, this is something to write down. Other people see it as just a normal day to day experience,
Right.
and artists see it as like, oh, this is a way to explain what we are dealing with
Mm-hmm.
as humans, and you know, to learn these lessons from each other. And I think I've been recently diving into myths a lot
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, explore those concepts more. But yes, absolutely think it's both. I consider them portals as well,
Mm-hmm.
like bringing things from the future or the past or out of another dimension into reality. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I think it's both as well. I think, you know, I think you can create new things from nothing. And I think that is really cool. But I also think that a lot of art has to do with something that somebody has experienced. Even if you do create something from nothing, I feel like you still just unintentionally like incorporate those experiences into that as well. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in, oh, I have to make something new. When it's like, no,
Hmm.
you can just be inspired by this thing and you can create from that too. So I think it's like a mixture as well.
Yeah, you definitely highlighted the translation of human experience more for me with your answer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, so much of what we go through is hard to explain
Mm-hmm.
because
Yes.
I mean, emotions do not speak our language. They don't speak
Mm-hmm.
English. Like, so not only do we have to sit and feel, just feel for
Yeah.
one,
Mm-hmm.
but then also for the sake of our lives, for the sake of the people that are around us, we have to also kind of translate that
Yeah.
feeling into something that we can articulate that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense, that explains why I acted the way I did,
Right.
why I looked the way I did, you know, why, where our relationship is in the
Mm-hmm.
moment. And sometimes, you know, it's hard to explain that, but the perfect song does, but the perfect painting does, but the perfect poem does. And that's important for us to have things to kind of reach out to help
Yeah.
explain what we're moving through.
Yeah, because sometimes you genuinely just can't put it into words. You have to have some other outlet to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is how
Hmm.
I feel. Because there's plenty of times where I've been like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to actually say. But then I sit down with a pen and I start writing a poem. And I'm like, okay, this is, it's there. It's making
Yeah.
sense. Or I'll start painting. I'm like, okay, everything that I'm feeling, now it's on this canvas. And
Hmm.
so, I was able to express it even though I couldn't formulate the words like, together as well as, I would have liked. So I 100% agree. So what were your first moments with art and what purpose did it serve?
I actually have a question for
Okay.
you off that last question.
Okay, okay.
Well, how, where it went.
Yeah.
What is the last song, album, or poem that you feel like saved you when you thought no one else could?
Mm. Saved me. I would say, okay, there may be two. I'll give a person. Because genuinely he has so many songs that
Mm,
I was like, oh my gosh.
that's fair.
Samo, he's like this black dude. He like wears a grill. He wears a little cowboy
Mm,
hat. He's bald. Everything, like he's super cool. But so I don't listen to a whole lot of like mainstream music.
mm,
I'm more like just random artists. But he talks about real stuff.
mm,
And I think a lot of the things that he was talking about, I could really relate to. Or he
yeah.
was genuinely talking about the human experience. Like, hey, this is what happened to me. This is how I feel. Like, he was saying all the things. And so that was one. Um, yeah, he's probably the top of my list where I was literally listening to him all the time. And I was like, wow, this is really
You
hitting.
said his name's Samo? Okay.
It's Thomas spelled backwards.
Okay, got you.
Yep. I'll have to send it to you
For sure,
afterwards.
for sure.
And then this group, it's called Tank and the Bangers.
Oh yeah.
She has a poetry or like spoken word album. And that one right there is a song on there. I don't even know the name of it right now, but she's literally talking about being a human. And she just says so many things in there. She's like, what do you say to yourself when no one else is looking? Like, she's just saying all these things. She has one called Hands, where she's just observing people holding hands, and the dynamic between the two. She's trying to kind of translate the relationship between people through watching them hold hands. And I was like, wow, like this is so good. So I remember like being in college and I'm walking to class, listening to these albums and these artists, and I'm like, wow, like y'all are really doing it for me right now. So yeah, what's yours?
Did you get to see them when they performed the Dayton Tank and the Bangers?
I did, at the Levitt.
Yes.
And then they also just performed at the Black Expo in Columbus,
That's
but I
right.
missed it.
Yeah.
It was on, I think I went Saturday, or I don't know what day I went, but whatever day I went, I didn't get to see them, but
Word.
love them.
Man, good answers, by the way.
Thank you.
Man, what is mine? I think my most recent is Willow's album Empathogen. Much for a lot of the reasons you explained for Tanking the Bangers. She just, her writing in that album was just so poetic, and it was so fitting for the human experience. And I think it really just broke down a lot of the things that I was moving through at that time when it came out. And her style of music changed into more instrumental, a little more jazz, and that's also just kind of like the space I was in. And it was just something about like that album. I just knew that it would be for me in this moment. But that is a strong one for sure. And on a different level, really recently, Aja Monet, her album the Color of Rain. She has a song. I know she's nice. But it's the song called "I Came to the Poem," and it's just like this repetition piece about all the things that happen when you come to poetry, to walk away, to express whatever it is, and then like the things that come from that. And so like I was literally about to write a poem about that, and that came on, and I was like, this is actually wild. So I just kind of sat in that for a minute. That has been really just fueling my spirit as a poet, the ideas that I'm having to kind of just feel the affirmation of where I am creatively, because that can get heavy sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. You'll have to I'll send you some more and you send me them, and so then we can have those, because that last one sounds like it's really good.
For sure.
It sounds really good. So what were your first moments with art, and what purpose did it serve for you? Like your youngest, like whatever you can first remember.
For sure. My first moments with art was visual art, drawing. In third grade, give or take, I had a friend that could draw, and it amazed me. And I was already like someone who enjoyed tracing, and like tracing Dragon Ball Z characters, and that was my thing. Cartoons in general, it was just kind of like my escape on the page. I'm just drawing cartoons. And he wouldn't teach me how to draw, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna just learn myself. Right. And so I really did learn how to draw, and I would just sit at a table wherever for hours and just draw new pictures and just try to figure out how I can translate this image on a piece of paper in my mind, or a combination of a few things, and just put it on paper, and see where it goes. I never got super deep into it because I started to tell people. And then, in high school, everybody wanted a drawing for tattoo and stuff, or whatever the case may be. And I was just like, I don't want to do this for a living. This is just something that, I love to, as a hobby, to escape, to just be. So that was probably my earliest. And somewhere in there, I also enjoyed just like singing. I don't think I was really good at it, but I enjoy singing for sure. And poetry didn't come till way later. I actually did not like reading and writing at all. I was a lover of math and science.
Okay.
But I think that is what led to the creativity in the writing anyway. But yes.
So when did poetry begin for you?
That was, it came in pieces. It first showed up in high school in my senior year. I went to DECA, so I had to write an autobiography for Gateway 6. And it was, I used a poem to piece together the chapters. And that came out of nowhere. It just was a random idea I had, but it happened. I didn't think anything of it, and I used to kind of write like Facebook notes and stuff like that about like relationships, but I didn't see that as poetry.
Yeah.
I wrote another poem on accident that was supposed to be a rap verse,
Okay.
but ended up being spoken word.
Yeah.
But again, didn't think anything of it. I'm just like I just wanted to write. I just wanted to rap, and so then 2014 is when I was like sitting down and reflecting on my life, and I literally everything was kind of like gone around me. I had lost my job. Literally got laid off like 3 weeks after starting. I got into a car accident. The relationship I was in was pretty much wrapping up, and I had so much anxiety and depression, like it was showing up on my body, like, and it just felt uncomfortable. So I had nothing to do but like write and just express what I was feeling. And that's when I started calling it poetry, and that's when I started seeing it reflect from other people. They're like, oh, this is really good, you should keep going, da, da, da. And so it kind of just took off from there. I've been in it ever since. But
so it's been there for a while. You just never really tapped in until around that time. Okay. That's good. I feel like it's so interesting because I feel like a lot of people start similar. Like they never intentionally are writing poetry,
right.
but then something in life has them do it a couple of times, and then they finally realize like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. And so then you really get into it and you're like, oh, I'm able to do this for real. I would say my first moments with art, I have always been able to sing. Like my family is very musical, so I think I was really young with that. But that was a gift that I just, naturally had. But I think poetry started for me. I know I wrote a couple of poems like when I was really young, but that was like little kid stuff. And then 6th grade, we were given this assignment to write, like we just had a poetry section of class, and we had to write like different poems about different things and stuff. And that was the first time where I was like, oh wait, like I actually can put words together, and like this is making sense and it sounds really good, and also I'm expressing for real. Like when I was doing it before, when I was younger, I was just, oh, red car, blue car, that type of stuff. But then our teacher just gave us the ability to truly just write freely. And I was like, oh snap, like my heart's on this page now. And that's when I realized like, okay, this is something I genuinely enjoy, because singing was good. Like you can express yourself with that, but you're using other people's words. And so that was always the difference between the two for me. I love singing, love it to death, but it's someone else's. But when I write poetry, it's like, these are my words. So I think art for me, just in general, was the purpose of it was to express the things that I wasn't able to say, because I feel like a lot of the times in my life I felt like I had to bite my tongue or whatever. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm able to just say whatever I want to say. Nobody can tell me what to do on this page. So yeah,
that's real.
I use it as that for sure. And I think I still do, like things like how we said earlier, sometimes you can't formulate it into words, and so that song or that poem where you're talking about a couch, like it's really just how I really feel on the inside, but I can't get it out necessarily with my true emotions, but I can tell you how this couch is looking like this, and it's cracked and all of that stuff, but I'm really talking about myself in that. So I think, it was a way to just say whatever needed to be said. So
that's real.
Yeah.
If you could like choose to pick up any art form, a different one, what would you choose?
Pottery.
Why pottery?
I think I don't have an art form that's physical. Everything, I mean, obviously you physically do things, but more of my art is mental. So Yeah, I would choose poetry because I mean pottery because it's more it's more physical. You can create with your hands. It allows you to get messy.
Yeah.
It allows you to just kind of just be rough a little bit, but also you have to be gentle and take your time. So I think it's just different
Yeah.
from what I typically do. What would you choose?
I think I would choose pottery too. That has been an art form that's definitely been on my mind.
Hmm.
Besides the piano, piano,
Yeah.
guitar, and the sax, I would definitely want to
Okay.
play.
Yeah, I would pick up other instruments too. I used to play the trombone, but I would play
Word.
piano and guitar as well. And I'd like saxophone, but I just like listening to it. I don't need to learn how to do
Same.
it.
I just want to learn how to play to know like
Yeah.
where it really comes from.
Hmm.
But other than that, I really want to be able to play piano
Hmm.
and really be able to play guitar. But pottery for a whole different reason of the other two, much like you were saying, just being the working with hands and
Hmm.
uh, just I think I've been in a human space of just appreciating feeling,
Hmm.
both in a emotional way and in a physical way, and to know that pottery takes so much just gentle handwork and guidance and
Hmm.
just like holding and like being there for the molding of what it is and having to be patient with that as it's forming and it feels like just something that could be such a great meditative work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm romanticizing it too much, but that's why I would love to do pottery for
Yeah.
sure.
I agree. I like the word guidance because I feel like,
Mm,
that makes a lot of sense. I also would do drums. I've always wanted to play drums. I think drums are just nice and loud and like you can just,
yeah.
go crazy if you wanted to.
Have you ever seen the movie Whiplash?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you gotta watch it. Is it was a lot of dedication in that movie. A really interesting storyline, but it gave me a whole different level of respect for drummers,
Hmm.
because I was able to kind of translate that movie into a lot of the drummers that I've seen for live bands, especially with like black musicians,
Yeah.
and just the rhythm and like the off the top thinking and the way that they
Hmm.
can take over a moment and like give it back to the lead or another musician, you know what I mean? And just it also takes me to the uh, cultural aspect or use of drums as like a technology and a communication tool,
Hmm.
and that is just like I don't know, it's mesmerizing for
Yeah.
sure. So I can see
Yeah.
that.
And I would try every single type of drum. Like drum sets with the sticks and everything, but like hand drums, all of that.
Like
Like I would
percussion in
love
general, yeah.
all of it. I think it would just be fun too. How do you define the difference between just existing and truly living?
Mm. Just existing and truly living. It's interesting you asked that question because it made my mind split in two different
Mm.
ways. I think there is a like global life way of looking at it where just existing kind of just feels like doing nothing and not really having direction. But then that also is a challenge for my thinking because doing nothing only has a negative connotation because of the society that America
Mhm.
has created and this idea of what is productive.
Mhm.
Even though doing nothing is actually, very revolutionary, it's resistance,
Yeah.
it's also necessary for
Yeah.
our brains to think, it's necessary for our nervous system to reset, all that. So, there's that aspect of doing nothing for me, like more so that's creeped in lately with the work that I do.
Mhm.
That is like I need to just exist. I
Yeah.
need to just sit still for a moment and be.
Rest.
And I think that it's a mindset is mostly the difference. Where is your mind? Where are you in this moment that you're doing nothing?
Yeah.
You're just existing. Are you allowing yourself to just actually pay attention to like your breathing, your heartbeat, giving yourself gratitude for being able to do those things, truly appreciating your legs for supporting you this whole time,
Forever.
and now
Yeah.
you're giving them a break. Like that's what
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
existence is about. Like that is something powerful. And I think this again that's necessary. And you said the other part was living
Or truly living.
truly living. I think a part of that is truly living, right? And that's again a part of my crossover with the words and the different definitions or ways that they can be used. Um, but again, on that global scale, truly living to me looks like doing what you are passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
what feels like your purpose. And that purpose can be anything. I think everybody has a role, and nobody can tell you what that role is but you.
Mm-hmm.
You and your relationship with the Most High, and whatever that looks like for you. But I think it feels like you are fulfilled. Like you, no matter how challenging the days are, no matter how much exhaustion you got to recover from, you are doing what you love, and
Right.
you are showing up every day because you love it, and you
Mm-hmm.
are willing to have to take rest and to have to slow down because you're going so hard for something that you actually care about,
Yeah.
and not just because you're being overworked. You know what I mean? And I think that some people see truly living as like just having the things that
Mm-hmm.
say I'm alive, like, or that I'm an independent adult.
Yeah.
And in reality, that's kind of like just existing, and
Yeah, for
this
sure.
nothingness, because it's repetition. You just like kind of living in this blank space of doing what you were told life is supposed to be, but you're unhappy and you're exhausted and you don't even know why you're showing up every day.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do anybody justice, not the customers you serve and not you. And I don't think that's truly living at all. So regardless of the things that are involved, regardless of the action that's happening, I think the difference between the two is where your mind is, where your spirit is,
Yeah.
in the moment of what you're doing, to bring it all together, I
No,
guess.
I 100% agree. And what I really like that you said was, what does your just existing look like?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you, showing gratitude through that? Because I think, people are like, when you say that, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm just here, like lump on a log kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can intentionally just exist.
Yeah.
And I think, that is something we should all do more of. Like, yeah, you can just be here and be doing nothing, but your nothing has to be a little bit of something. Just being intentional about like how you're moving. So I would say I do think the difference between the two. I have to agree with everything you said. Like, existing can look bad,
Mm-hmm.
if you allow it to be bad. But also, truly living has to be something that, you're showing up as your best self. You're doing the things that you love to do. You're, creating relationships with different people and, with God, all of those things. I
Mm-hmm.
think that to me is truly living, because then, you're not just getting caught in like the rat race where
Mm-hmm.
you're just, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm going to work, I'm, doing all the things that people are asking of me, or I'm just checking things off the boxes. I feel like that is
Yeah.
just existing,
Yeah.
in its true form, or in its form that most people say, is just existing. So yeah, I think that's the difference between the two.
What was your crossover or transition period between just existing and truly living?
That's a great question. I feel like all the time there is a
Mm-hmm.
flop between the two, which I don't think is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as you grow and as you like move through life, there are just moments where you are just existing, and then there's moments where you're truly living because you're growing, and so you have to continue to figure out what that really looks like for
Yeah.
you. And so I feel like, as a kid, I think everybody's just existing. Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
just here. We're just going with the flow of things. But I think once you start adding, being intentional about, the things that you're doing, the things that you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, how you're thinking, how you're loving other people, how you're receiving love, that's when I think you start truly living.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, because you're growing, I feel like you just kind of bounce between the two all the time. So I don't even know if I can pinpoint like a time period really.
Yeah. If you could name it around, I guess, truly living in the sense of like your what purpose you feel like, or when you awoken to just walking in life with intentionality. If I can put it that way, maybe.
I think I can pinpoint certain moments where I realized, okay, this I'm being intentional about things, or stuff like that. So one time when I was in fifth grade, I had this friend,
Mm-hmm.
and this was just when I realized, like, oh, I'm starting to be aware of what's happening around me, and I don't what I'm not willing to be a part of, I just decide that I'm not going to be a part of. So I had this friend, me and her were really good friends, but she was really nice to me and she was really mean to everyone else. And so I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to be your friend anymore. But I was so young, most people that wouldn't matter to. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter. You're nice to me. You're rude to everybody else. Who cares? But I was like, and then we stopped being friends. Like, I genuinely was like, yeah, you're just not the type of person that I want to be, in connection with. So that was the first moment where I can think of a time where I was like, okay, I'm being intentional about something. And so I guess that was like a truly living moment.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other moments.
That's deep, actually.
Yeah, and the
really
crazy thing is, I can vividly remember the day where I sat back and I genuinely decided, like, yeah, I'm not going to be friends with her anymore. And I mean, she's cool. Like, I still talk to her, but like, we just weren't like, we weren't friends though. But we were really close at the time. But I was just like, yeah, I don't think that's somebody I want to be connected to, or yeah.
That's real. It's hard. It's hard for people to make those type of decisions when they're benefiting from the result.
Yeah,
even
for sure.
if it does go against their morality or beliefs of things, and they, keep a blind eye to say that, it's not that deep to me. But
right. Yeah.
That young.
Yeah.
It's good. It's dope.
I'm trying to think of any other moments. I would say once I started like working with kids, I think that's when I started to truly live, because I realized that, everything that I was doing, they were watching me do. And even when I wasn't like within the school or, whatever, like I just knew I had to move through the world a certain way because I don't know who I'm going to run into. I don't know if one of my kids are going to be here or something like that. So, yeah, so and it's crazy because you will be in Kroger and you will run into one of your kids and it's like, oh man, my outfit's not giving what it needs to give right now, So, I think once I started really working with kids, I realized, okay, I have to truly start living and being intentional about, like, decisions that I'm making. And I wasn't like making any crazy decisions really, but, still just had to, grow and like, change some things about myself. So, yeah. What about you?
That's real. I think that biggest moment was probably in 2014 when I started poetry. Before then, like I was just I guess I call it like a mindless teenager. I was here for the jokes and the playing around, and I just didn't take anything serious.
Yeah.
I was conscious enough of how I would make my mom look if anything happened, so I never was too reckless.
Yeah.
And I think that was a different type of awareness. But when it comes to like actually living and taking control of my life and really implementing a lot of things that were based on growth and moving forward, that was definitely in 2014, because I really started to reflect on my decisions and how they were impacting my future and how things were, transpiring from that. But from then, I think I had, another really huge moment in 2020, and that just kind of started to shift a lot with what I was still holding on to, even though I was like on this kind of growth and transition period. And then I think my most recent other level of, kind of coming back into that was leading into turning 30.
Okay.
Whole different shift there. Still riding a wave out of it, for sure. But I like to your point you made earlier, just how it's kind of, you kind of go back and forth between the existing and that. And I think the existing is important because once you've learned the lessons and once you've like started to implement them, you have to just live. Like you have to let it play out and actually be a part of you and a part of how you operate without like over analyzing every decision, because then it's not happening authentically. It's not actually, teaching you anything. And then it's the reflection after the moments that, kind of help bring it together. So I get that.
Yeah, so off what you just said, what's one lesson that you feel like you've learned here recently that you have just had to just let it be and you had to just exist in, the lesson that you learned from it?
So many. I think the biggest one has been finding out what I need from me. Um, I have a good understanding of what I like and what I enjoy. However, I I won't give myself. Well, I won't say I won't. I used to not give myself a lot of the things I needed in order to keep up the capacity necessary to do whatever it is I do on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. Um, and so essentially, man, and it feels like that lesson has come back like twice now that I think about it. I guess it comes back multiple times until you really learn
Yeah,
what
yeah.
it is.
So you master it?
Right. But I don't know why it's so hard for me to describe right now, but um, meetings go on the calendar, important dates go on the calendar, people's birthdays go on the calendar, but my breaks aren't on the
You don't
calendar.
go on the calendar.
My days to just exist are not on the calendar, and then I'm looking forward to it. But as soon as I got something that comes up, it's like, oh, you free
Move
this
that
day?
aside.
Exactly, because it was never there to begin with.
Right,
I
yeah.
never made the intention. I never, set the boundary, and so I'm learning to figure out what boundaries I need to set in order to make sure that I'm being present and I'm being here. And that kind of, on a second level, kind of contributed to that point I was making earlier about constantly self-reflecting so much that I'm not giving myself space to actually, be human.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like over analyzing every situation. And so it was like realizing that you made it here. Like whatever you was trying to achieve, like you're here.
Yeah.
You're a good person, whatever that means, or like you're at least intentional about your life to the point where you know things are. I can trust myself to make the right decisions in
Right.
real time to handle whatever comes my way. And that's what I think I was so paranoid of not being able to do before. I thought I was scared of failure. I was
Yeah.
scared of doing wrong, making the wrong choice, not being able to recover from a choice that just feel like I was wrong. I was right about it, but then it ended up being the wrong choice. And it's like, what is the right or wrong choice? So
Yeah.
I was just like completely being too critical of myself in so many moments throughout my day that it just didn't give me time to breathe. And shout out to therapy,
Yeah.
because
I know.
my therapist helped me unpack the fact that it's just like, why do you feel like you gotta be in that headspace all the time?
Yeah.
Like, just exist. Allow yourself to just be. Allow yourself to actually trust yourself to handle situations that are hard in the moment. Stop trying to predict the outcome before it actually even gets here.
Yeah.
Stop trying to read people to the point before that you're trying to manage your actions or how you show up to make sure you don't do anything wrong. Like none of that is necessary.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Right, yeah.
So that is probably like the biggest thing that I'm healing or growing through, like the lesson I've learned and kind of just balancing out.
No, that's good. I feel like I deal with the same types of stuff, like that whole boundary thing and like just making sure that you go on the list at least. Because I feel like, you can have 10 things on the list and then you're not even on it
Right.
at all. So just knowing that I at least need to be on the list at this point. Like I might not be number one, but I at least got to be in the top 5, like something. So I guess I needed to hear that for sure. Because I've been working on it. I've been working on it for sure. I would say a lesson that I recently learned, maybe that I would have to go with the whole fear thing too. I feel like at one point I was dealing with a lot of like anxiety, just dealing with, like past things that would come up or whatever. And sometimes I would just be anxious about things and I couldn't even tell you what it was or like where it was coming from. Um, and so I just had to figure out like, okay, how do I navigate this when I don't know how to put a name to why it's even here? And I think I read a scripture once where it was just basically saying like, God takes care of birds. Like birds really don't do much for us, and so like, why are you worried? Like he's gonna take care of you too. And so that's just something that I say to myself all the time. Like whenever I'm feeling anxious, I'm just like, if he'll do it for them, he'll do it for me. So, but yeah, that was definitely a lesson that I have been and am learning, how to just kind of navigate that irrational, random, like fear of things, of people, of outcomes, of how situations are gonna go. I do a whole lot of that like overthinking, or I'm talking to myself in the shower like, okay, so when this happens, blah blah blah, like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna say this, but it's like, girl, you don't even know if that's really how it's gonna go.
Right.
So just learning to kind of just, I say go with the flow, but I also have been learning like go with the flow doesn't mean that I literally have to go with whatever's going on. I'm just willing to kind of allow for things to be what they are, and then I can take a step back and decide what I want to be a part of, what I don't want to be a part of. So I guess that balance between like going with the flow and also knowing when it's time for me to kind of, pivot or navigate a different way, or, anything like that.
And that gives permission to change your mind and to become comfortable changing your mind, and it also gives you permission to just take a pause to think things through, and to feel comfortable taking a pause and thinking things through.
Saying no.
Right. So much of the world just is like on go all the time, and it can make you feel like you're pressured to make the decision quickly. You got to get back to them, or you're going to lose the opportunity, or you might offend somebody, or this and this and that. It's like, nah, I have the right to take my time to think about it.
Right,
I have a right to decide, you know what, I showed up, I saw the things, I'm not really feeling it like I thought I would be feeling it. It's a no, you know. And that's all okay, because sometimes that's what life be like sometimes, you know.
Yeah. And I think you have to step outside of the fact that, you might hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. Or like you might cause some sort of thing for them, and it's like, I mean, yes, but if you say yes to this thing, now you're causing something for you, and then you can't even show up how you really would have wanted to show up anyway. So it's like, you got to just kind of be like, okay, because I was just talking to someone and they were like, well, I don't want to cause any hurt for this person. I'm like, yeah, but as you're not causing hurt for them, you're being hurt in the process. Yeah, so it's like you have to at some point choose yourself, and as hard as it can be. And I mean, I was telling her that, knowing I need to tell myself that sometimes, but I think it's necessary for sure.
Recovering people pleaser here.
Sure. Literally. In recovery.
Yes.
For sure. So what gives you a sense of purpose? What's the thing?
What is the thing that gives me a sense of purpose? I think it's just, honestly, at the core, talking. Talking, giving hugs.
Okay.
And just making space for people. I like to say that it's poetry a lot of times. I like to say that it's communication. But that's just a vehicle for the core things, which are, the first ones I named. I'm really a person who's about the human experience. Like, there is so much that tries to take us away from that, and people get lost. They minimize themselves. They abandon themselves to show up for what the world asks of them, and then we're left with nothing. And then no one sees that they done fell over in the street and are just like barely crawling over to anything new, anything that could save them. And sometimes in the world, all it takes is for somebody to just see you and be like, hey, you need some help? Like, how you doing? Or at least how you handling this? Or to just sit with you, for a moment and just be in silence, or to just talk things through. And so I just think that it's so important for people to continue to make spaces for the human experience, whether it is a physical one, an abstract one, or um, just time as well. So, uh, I completely forgot what the framing of your question
What
was,
gives you a
but
sense of purpose?
okay,
Hmm.
got you. But yeah, I think that's essentially what gives me a sense of purpose. I don't think there's anything more important than truly being able to see our humanity in ourselves and in each other, so that we
Yeah.
can live right by that.
Right.
And I think everything else, gets built on top. And if we do the foundation right, then we'll be all right for
Yeah.
everything else.
And I love that you said that because that's the purpose of the podcast. Like, that's why I created it, to
Mm,
give people that sense of, like, just love and, like, just being able to be whoever you are and, talk about different things. So I guess this does give me a sense of purpose, but I think when like a kid comes to me and they want to have like they're seeking me out
yeah.
for a conversation that no one else is willing to have with them.
Hmm.
I think that's where I'm like, oh yeah, like
Legit.
this is, yeah, like this is great. Or like my ability to not really care. Like, I ask kids questions that probably most people wouldn't ask them, but like,
Right.
I know you need to talk about this. So like,
Right.
I'm about to ask you, like, hey, what's going on at home? Or like, hey, you're doing this and that seems like this could be happening. Like, is,
Hmm.
like all of those things. And so I think that gives me a sense of purpose because I know I'm giving them an outlet to speak about things that they don't
Yeah.
always get the chance to speak on. Um, as much as people get on me about this, crying gives me a sense of purpose, and not even my own tears, but
Yeah.
other people's tears, like
Yeah.
their vulnerability, their ability to just, show what most people would call weak. I view it
Hmm.
as a strength. So
Hmm.
I'm just being able to be a part of that. And I think, a lot of times I can feel how they're feeling in those moments anyway. So when you're crying, I'm also doing the same.
Yeah.
But I think that definitely gives me a sense of purpose because I know people are just, letting out something that needs to
Yeah.
be, released.
It's natural.
It's natural and it's good.
Legit.
It's so good for you. Yeah. So I think what's giving me purpose.
Ah, I love your answer.
Yeah.
I want to adopt crying as
Yeah.
well. I don't cry as often as I think I would like to.
Hmm.
Not that I'm ever opposed to doing it. Sometimes I just experience art to help me cry because I've lived my life so used to not crying and
Hmm.
holding back from that. It's still something I'm recovering
Yeah.
from. So although I'm open to crying, theoretically, my body still isn't all the way there and
Hmm.
comfortable with letting out tears for any just like given moment. But when it does happen, I try to allow it to happen
Hmm.
so that it does
Well,
start
that's
to become
good. Yeah.
comfortable. But I tell people all the time, like especially those who are criers, I'm like, don't hate it. Like,
Yeah. I'm a
if I had,
fan.
if I was a crier, like I would absolutely let it fly.
Yeah.
And I mean, like it's the body releasing. Like the body doesn't justify why the tears are here. Like
Hmm.
we cry for laughter, we cry for sadness, we cry just because we were witnessing something in
Yeah.
awe. You wouldn't. You're not supposed to hold it when you got to go to the bathroom. So
Why
why
would you
you
hold?
hold
Yeah, that's
this
such a
release
good,
as
like,
well? Yeah,
comparison.
it has to happen.
Yeah.
So allow your body to go through that. That's literally what supports the nervous system. Is
Hmm.
what supports just the whatever tightness or tension we may be holding in our bodies as well. So absolutely would adopt crying, and I love the answer about just conversations with
Hmm.
youth.
Yeah.
I live for those moments in my job when they are able to just actually open up,
Hmm.
not in a moment when the situation has happened and they done blown up about it,
Right.
not when they already distraught about whatever happened yesterday or they in it with their friends, but in a genuine human to human, adult to child connection
Yeah.
of, hey, I got this thing going on in life
Right.
and I want to talk to you about
Hmm.
it. And it's like, yeah, what's up? Like,
Right.
let's
Yeah.
let's go there,
I'll be ready.
cause
Like, come on.
yeah. And I think it comes from, for me, uh, and a part of why I love like podcasts and
Hmm.
having intentional conversations. For one, I'm not good at small talk, so when I said like talking give me purpose, like it's like real talking,
Hmm. Hmm.
intentional. But I love to go there. If we're not gonna talk about the details, the real aspects of life, then what
What
we
are we
really talking
doing?
is
Yeah.
legit. So to have those moments with kids, because for me, like it didn't feel like many adults, if any at all, wanted to go there with me. Like I remember actually, I'm a also answer add an additional answer to another question you asked way back with this, but I got caught smoking when I was a teenager, still in high school, and my parents asked me, why was I doing it, and I was in trouble for it, but I didn't know how to answer. I just was like, my life is a lot. I feel like I'm going through a lot. I'm always feeling this, this, and this, and you know, they just kind of sat with it for a minute. I was just, it was like an overnight kind of, we're just going to let it breathe. But they were so frustrated, they just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I wrote a poem. That was like one of the first times I wrote a poem with the intention of like actually expressing all the things that are on my mind and in my body. And my parents read it and they said nothing. No response, no questions, no nothing. And it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how to take that. Like,
Right.
I'm like, does this mean that like you understand? Like that it's not a problem? I don't know. But that was just like an example of the lack of interest or genuine curiosity that I was feeling from people who I felt like, were supposed to care. And this was my idea of caring, being curious about the people that you love and that you want in your life. So now, and something that I've had to go through many other lessons in life to heal the wound, but also turn it into more of a superpower, so that I can show up for these kids, not in a way that I'm like, self-sacrificing or being a people pleaser now, but a genuinely curious adult to say, I want to engage with you. I want to know what's going on in your life. I want to be able to support the advice that you're actually looking for, because kids hate it being lectured most of the time. But when you allow space for them to just come to you about it, so much more is digested in that process. So I live for that. I don't have kids, but whenever, if ever I have kids and they get to that question stage, I want to be there for like literally every question.
For sure, for sure. And I love that you're being something for kids that you may not have gotten when you were a child, because I always say like, I want to love kids in a way that even if they're lacking in other areas, like love from other people, they know that, at some point, that lady over there, she loved me, and I was able to talk to her about whatever. So I love that you're doing that, because it's necessary, and they need to have people outside of wherever, they're always at, that they're able to talk to, and somebody who will be like real and genuine, and just give them the keys, like, because I feel like a lot of times, along with lectures, you also get a lot of like sugar-coated information. And so, people aren't willing to just be like real. Obviously, you have to, speak on their level, but also just tell them like the very real things that are happening in life.
Because they know.
Yeah, because they know anyways. And the question is do you want them to learn it like this, or do you want them to learn it like this? Because like this is going to be not the best way. But if you give it to them, then it's like, you can give it to them in a way that can actually be useful to them in a positive way. I did have a question though. You said that you were not a crier because, you just kind of, learned that wasn't something that you maybe were supposed to do, or like it just wasn't something that was something that you did often. But you said that you're trying to heal from it, and you would like to adopt it. So are there things that you're intentionally doing to be able to express yourselves through through tears, pretty much? Because I think tears are kind of in the same category as like songs and poetry. Sometimes you don't have the words, but the tears are releasing everything that needs to be released.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing I'm trying to do is actually be connected with my body, and know what it feels like when I want to cry, when I have to cry. And even if I can't, does it feel like I have to cry? Does it feel like I have some type of buildup of tears, Is there resistance there? Does it feel like it's actually coming soon? You know what I mean? And so just paying attention to like that muscle tension that's there, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, and trying to, allow myself to just be with it. And I think if I do feel it and I feel resistance that I can't unblock myself,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'll engage with like music or a movie that I know, will kind of just pull at my heartstrings a
Mm-hmm.
little
Mm-hmm.
more and just like allow myself to cry in resonance with the story,
Yeah.
or with the human experience in the song. So yeah, it's kind of like I don't know what to call it. Like a some type of supplement or enhancement to the tears. Like
Mm-hmm.
what helps push the process
Yeah.
along. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Until I can start really unblocking it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what comes to the top of my mind, I believe.
No,
So
that's
yeah.
good because I think there are times where I'm also like, okay, I haven't cried in a long time, or like I haven't had that release, so I will tell people like, hey, do you want to watch a sad movie, or like
Yeah.
or I'll watch one with the intention of crying because I
Hmm.
know it's something that either has been building up or just something that is necessary in those moments, or like those videos that you watch where like
Hmm.
people are doing kind acts, all that
Hmm.
stuff like. Oh, let me go watch some of those so I can make sure that the tears roll. I haven't cried in a while, or I can feel them like sitting on the surface,
Yeah.
but it's like they just can't come out. So I just need, like you said, like something to kind of push the process along.
Hmm.
But I think that's good because I think a lot of men do experience a lot of things where they're either told they shouldn't cry or they can't cry,
Hmm.
or that's just not what men do, and then you have this like deficit for men who can express their emotions in that way. So I think just being intentional about releasing and being able to cry in moments where it's necessary
Yeah.
is a good thing.
Plus, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I have a question. Do you think you described um, not crying for a while, like you just know it has been a while for
Hmm.
you? I think that's something that a lot of people go through. Like they feel like either like an emotion has been missing for a while, or
Hmm.
maybe there's a release that could be helpful or cathartic, but it just hasn't been around. Do you think instead of like some people choosing like sad movies or sad songs to like listen to and process through that, they actually end up choosing self sabotage in order to evoke that feeling instead, whether it's consciously or unconsciously?
Hmm. I do think that people probably do self sabotage to get that like hit of like,
Hmm.
oh, I need to get this emotion out.
Hmm.
Do I think that is a healthy way of doing it?
Absolutely not.
No. And I want to say I'm trying to figure out if I have ever done that, or if I have, which I probably have unintentionally.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that is something that maybe people do often, um, and not even on purpose.
Hmm.
But they just know like, okay, I need to feel this way. I know what can make me feel this way.
Hmm.
Therefore, I'm going to engage in that. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Oh, it just I randomly thought about it. I think in a place that it comes out possibly for me unintentionally, and I try to be better about it these days.
Hmm.
But the moment where there's like a lot of just maybe frustration or irritation or just overwhelm,
Hmm.
overstimulation, any of those things or combination of those things, and like someone can look at me who actually knows me and like, you okay?
Yeah.
Is something wrong, or do you need a hug? It's but the do you need a hug always gets to me too, because
Hmm.
contrary to what I said about purpose, um, I will reject a hug like when I feel when the feeling is too much, and for some reason I
Hmm.
can't push past it
Hmm.
to say that I want that support. Um, and I don't know if that's like technically self sabotage, and maybe
Hmm.
it kind of is, because it's like the answer is partly in front of you, or it could be if you just opened yourself up to maybe accepting it, but you want to stay here.
Yeah.
And it's not that I want to stay here, but it's just like it's so much. Uh, I don't know if I'm feeling it to feel human and to just sit with it, or if it's just like also kind of just blocking that decision making as
Yeah.
well. But that's what came to mind when I thought about that question as well.
No, that's actually good, and it has my wheels turning now because I will say maybe I do that then
Mm,
because I am so like one of my love languages would be physical touch,
mm,
and but whenever I am feeling away, depending on the situation, that's the first thing that I kind of like cut off.
mm,
And so maybe that is a form of like self sabotage because like there's like times where I do, like if I'm feeling something or I'm going through something, I need that. Like I need physical touch. But then there's other times where I'm like, I don't really want that. But knowing that that is something that's a way that I feel loved.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that is like a like self-sabotage in a way. Because like you said, that I mean the answer is right there. You're just not willing to take it.
Gotta sit with that.
Yeah, that's like something you gotta sit and dissect. Like, maybe. I have one last question, and then if you have any other questions after that, you can ask. But
For sure.
in what ways can you suggest that artists or people or whoever offer their energy, craft, and words to the community in a healthy and like positive way?
Be the mad scientist. In the words of Lauryn Hill's MTV Unplugged album, be the mad scientist and do it, with yourself first. Come from a place of self first. I think that is healthy because you're at least unpacking these things from your life, from your experience, from your viewpoint, from your lens. Even if you're telling the story from someone else's lens, it's still from yours first, then theirs.
Yeah.
And I think when you do it from that way, you take your time. You have to really, move through it step by step. It becomes more of a somatic practice of being able to breathe with every step because it's you. And handling yourself requires gentleness, or at least requires you to be a little more aware of how you're handling yourself.
Yeah.
And that's important. It also kind of just keeps us in check when it comes to how we talk to people, how the message get delivered. I think people resonate with things when the story is told from the person or the character or the narrator, and then they can see themselves in it. Not necessarily that, the writer is writing about the person listening,
Right.
because then that makes it weird.
Right.
A little bit. But along with that, take your time, have grace, have patience, move from love along with that intentionality, and have a group of people, have a community that is a little closer to home before it reaches the people. Because that community is the ones that are going to support the outpour that happens. Because being an artist, one thing I've learned is that, especially in this society and culture, people love to consume, and it's a lot of consuming and not enough fulfillment.
Yeah.
Even if the project itself is fulfilling or is meant to be. So you could be an artist that's pouring your whole heart out, whole soul and spirit and mind and body, and everyone just sits there, observes, and walk away. And even if they come talk to you, they might just end up talking to you all about themselves and pour nothing into you entirely. Just, that you did such a good job. You made them see themselves, and that's wonderful. That's great. You've done what you set out to do, but who's going to fill you up? Who's going to tend to you the way that you just tended to this audience, in whatever way that may be, as a show, as an exhibition, as, music, but the people that you keep close to you, your community, those are the ones that are going to see you, see the exhaustion. They're going to care when you say you need something, when you actually need to reach out. Those are the people to help keep that balance. So yes, those are the things that I would say keep a healthy practice of sharing your work, your art with the people.
Yeah, sure. I have to agree with everything you said. And I would definitely say too, like, just showing up very real, like dropping whatever expectations have been placed upon you, because I think, as an artist, people can expect you to just always show up a certain way. But it's like, once you forget about everybody else's expectations and you just show up how you are that day, I feel like that just allows for people, like you said, to be able to relate, to be able to, hear what you're saying and see themselves in that. Because I think once you just show up as whatever your authentic self is that day, that allows for people to see like the real
Yeah.
version of you and not the poet you or the painter you or whatever. Like, this is just the human version of you who paints. This is the human version of you who does poetry. And that's just something that's attached to me as a person, but that's not who I am. So I think, being that, being the poet, but knowing that you're a person who does poetry or you're a person who does whatever art form that you do.
Real.
So yeah,
Real.
that's what I would say. That would be my main thing, I guess.
I love that.
For sure. Do you have any other questions? Any questions you wanna ask before we end?
My last question would be, what are you taking away from our conversation?
That's a good question. I would say probably the introspection of yourself as a person. I think we talked a lot about like what art does for us. We talked about therapy. We talked about a bunch of different things, and I think it just shows that you have to have a lot of outlets and things that you can use to be able to dissect what's happening within. And I think that just allows for growth and allows for you to be able to just truly know yourself in a real way. Because I think a lot of people say, like, I love myself, I know who I am, all of those things. But I think a lot of that sometimes is surface level. And I think when you have all of these different ways to express and, and see what's happening within, then it allows for you to be able to really truly know, this is who I am. These are the things that I like. These are the boundaries I have to set. These are the fears that I have. This is how I'm going to handle those fears, all of those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just using those things to be able to figure out like whatever you have going on is probably the main thing I'm taking away.
For sure.
How about you? What's your thing?
For me, I probably need to cry soon. This just felt like a good reminder to cry. There was another one. This was just, I think it's so easy for me to get caught up in the big world things that are happening. And as much as I love and believe in human connection and human things, sometimes it just be hard to actually see it sometimes, So this was just a good refreshing experience around the real vulnerability that I feel should be happening in community spaces and community connections. And so a little bit of everything, man, from where art comes from and how it translates to human experience and how that human experience also gets poured into the youth and how we gotta just pace ourselves and take our time and allow ourselves to exist and live with purpose and intention. And just the ebb and flow of all of that, but ultimately, like, just trust that, and we are in the space and practice of living life intentionally, and everything is gonna be cool, step by step in real time. So I'm grateful.
Yes. For sure. I'm glad you were here. Glad you came. Is there anything you want to leave the people with if you were talking to the world right now? What would you say?
Breathe.
Breathe.
Breathe, for sure. It's so many things that keep us running at such a fast pace. The internet, the cars, the way that we work, the things that we're streaming, it's all moving at such a fast pace, and everything can feel really, really urgent, even though we barely have the ability to control any of it. And it can get really easy to get lost and caught up in that traffic. So breathe, because that's gonna help reset you every time, and it's free and available always.
It's free and available. Absolutely. I love that. Because breathe, a lot of people just take that for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's something that, we need to be more grateful for. I would say just figure out your thing that allows for you to be whoever you are. Whether that's art, whether that's talking, whether that's, just whatever, walking, exercise, all those things. The thing that allows for you to express things that you can't say. Just figure out what that thing is. But I thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here. Enjoy the conversation.
Of course.
Hopefully one day you'll be back. We're
Yeah.
always down for part 2. So
Love.
I can send the form again and you can fill it out whenever you're ready.
Sure.
But yes, I appreciate you so much for coming. I thank you all for watching. And you know what the kids say, like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. And thank you for watching another episode of Let's Cry Together, where you're not required to cry, but if you want to, you definitely don't have to do it alone. We'll catch y'all again on the next episode. Thank y'all.